Hello again, guys. Welcome back to Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self care and movies. If this is your first time tuning in, thanks for joining us. We are on episode 35. I'm Jay Watson,
And I'm Cathy Castle.
and Kathy and I are going to talk a little bit about how love and respect and self care all kind of fit together tonight. Not only how we care and respect others, but especially self love and how we respect ourselves and how that just puts us in a better mental health state. But as usual, before we get into that, we're going to do a little self check in. So, what's up with the Castle?
I think I probably have information to say that I didn't tell you about yet, Jay.
Oh, okay. That's always juicy.
hmm
Who else is getting married in your family?
No, no. Nope. I can't. Listen, I got a wedding, a college graduation, and a high school graduation all within like 3 weeks in 2025. So I can't handle anything else major. Um, so we went to the beach this weekend, right? And we bought a camper.
Okay.
We bought a camper because we like that beach camping, those long weekends, and we go with my family, my parents, and the kids go a lot, but we're kind of outgrowing our space, so we got a spillover camper,
Okay.
and we have no idea what we're doing and towing and all that, so it should be a little bit of an adventure.
So it's a tow behind trailer camper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if it was like an RV camper. Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It is an RV camper.
But no, what I'm saying is it its own vehicle? In other words, you can.
Oh, no.
It's an actual trailer.
Yes.
Okay. It's funny. One of my favorite TikTok sites is like people trying to sell. And I'll tell you what, like
They're
there's
nice.
some nice ass. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like
So
stinking good, nice looking.
This isn't huge. I can sleep 4, maybe 5 if I put a cot in it. But like
It's your overflow space.
it's my own. That's what we called it, overflow. But look,
Yeah.
they've upped the game. Like white cabinets, fake shiplap, fake tile. It's a big fat fake. But you know, Marty's like, it's the one thing we all. If you're into camping, it's you pay money to live so poor and cheap.
Yeah.
But we like it. We like to go to the beach, and ride our bikes and go get fresh fish and cook and just take a breath.
So is it going to be a situation where you're going to like have to tow the camper down there, or can you leave your camper in a spot down there?
We'll tow it, but you can, like, in the off months, like in November or maybe April, you can, like, they'll do this super cheap deal where you can buy it for 4 weeks in the lot and just
Right.
leave your camper there and come and go. I
Yeah.
don't know if we would do that or not. We never have. My parents never had, but
Gotcha.
I don't know. It's a cheap way to go to the beach.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, but some of these campgrounds are starting to up their prices since COVID, so it's
Yeah.
not as cheap as it used to be, and more people seem to be into it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I like the idea of camping. I've not been since I was very like a kid, like a teenager. Um, I'm just trying to think of like how there are probably parts of it that I would really like. Like I could really get into like the whole barbecuing and having dinner and sitting
Yeah.
out by the fire at night and talking and do that. I would love because I would do that if I in my house anyway.
Well, and you can put all your stuff in there. It's like you can take your own food, or you don't have to eat there, but
Yeah.
all your clothes are in there. You're not. And a lot of these campgrounds have pools and
Yeah.
all kinds of amenities now. And then you want to run down to the beach, you run to the beach. So it's
Yeah.
just that's what we like anyway.
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh yeah.
We're not big. Let's go put it in the woods and see what happens. I'm still afraid of.
Yeah. You're not like living off the land campers. You're just like, let me go to a campground where there are amenities and do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to be near. I like to be near the beach.
Yeah.
The water.
So you're within probably 20 minutes of being in Ocean City or whatever.
We stay a lot of times. We stay in West Ocean City or down near Fenwick. So the beach is 2 miles away, right?
Yeah, but there's great restaurants in West Ocean City. Like there's some really nice restaurants on that side of the bridge.
It is. Well, everything's there. The movies there. The outlets are there. Ass's there.
Yep.
Like you said, restaurants, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A.
And you can go just a little bit down the road to Berlin, and there's all kind of stuff in
Yeah,
Berlin.
we
Yeah,
do go to Berlin, and then they have like Sundays they'll have these open markets out in the street where you can buy stuff, and then you're home in an hour and 15. So
yeah.
it's
It's,
really
it's
nice.
the best of a lot of worlds. Yeah,
We've really gotten to it. And then, we like to take our bikes and ride them around.
yeah,
Go to Assateague and ride around. The horses are all around. Or
yeah.
this time of year on the boardwalk, you can ride. So that we did a thing. We did a thing.
Cool. That sounds pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
We'll see how Marty likes having to hook the trailer up all the time. And
I know.
now, do you have a vehicle that will tow it?
Well, Jay, that's a whole nother thing.
So in other words, you'll be buying a vehicle specific for just towing your trailer to the beach.
So my brother calls me. He goes, "You did what?" He goes, "What are you doing? How are you going to tow it?" I was like, "Well," and he goes, "So in other words, you bought the water but not the pool." And I was like, "Yeah, something like that." But
But
so
you could buy like an
well,
inexpensive vehicle just for that purpose. You know what I mean?
we've been talking about a new truck because Marty has a truck, but it's not it can't tow that. It
It's
can tow
not
the
rated for that. Yeah,
so we're like one payment away from paying it off. So
yeah,
my guess is then, what do you do when you pay your car off? So I'm
yeah,
trading it on something else. I mean, so we'll get a used
yeah. Get
a
something
little
that get affordable because you're not going to be using it. It'll be mainly just for towing the camper.
yeah.
But something maybe that's a pickup truck, but it's a 4-seater, so you can
Yeah. We
you know
don't
what I
need
mean.
all the bells and whistles. We just
No,
need to haul it.
just a tow truck, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is quite a bit of an adventure for us, but what else you
there you
gonna
go.
do?
Yeah, that's cool though, because you guys get your money's worth out of it because you go all the time. It's not like you go
Yeah.
once or twice a year where you're going to spend money on something you're not getting anything out of.
Well, see,
You,
and
you
I get my like little girlness out, right? So I've got a small area, and I can decorate it and take my, pretend I'm playing house or something.
right,
I
yeah.
have a house. I don't know if you know what I mean.
I can intellectualize what you mean
Maybe I got a little
because
dollhouse.
I'm not a girl and I'm not a parent, so I you know
And I'm the mother of five boys. I need a girlified something. Oh my gosh! I was like, Marty, maybe I want to decorate. I want to buy like stuff. I don't know, like I'm playing
but
kitchen.
I love on TikTok when the guy will go give you a tour of a brand new RV camper, and these are the ones where the sides come out and like that are like 40 some foot long and sleep 6 people and have
Yeah.
2 bedrooms and laundry room, and I'm like, man,
Now Dad's is like that. Dad has 2 bedrooms,
okay,
island, and a fake fireplace, and
yeah,
ours isn't quite that.
yeah. But
we're,
it's
we're
basically just you're bringing along an extra living space. Yeah, yeah. You're gonna be like tag team in the living space from here on.
I'm
Yeah,
still crashing Dad's lot because that's where that's where the events occur.
gotcha. That's where Julie McCoy from the Love Boat operates. She's the activities director, the cruise
That's
director.
Yeah. Sometimes if we put up the tents like you do when you're doing the table stuff, I call it the event tent.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
cool.
can make up a lot of things. How about you?
So yeah, it's funny. I want to talk just for a minute about this whole um, putting the clocks back an
Oh,
hour
yeah,
because seasonal depression is a real thing, and this is kind of the
yeah.
what brings the onset because it was pretty much dark at 5:30 today. And I'm not bothered too terribly much. Don't get me wrong, I would prefer it to be still sunny out at 8 o'clock at night for sure,
Yeah.
but I'm not really bothered that much by it. There is an adjustment because your body clock is kind of regulated by looking out the window and seeing whether so.
Huh.
Sometimes you don't really have to look at your clock. You kind of know
Right.
instinctively what time it is. That kind of it takes a little while for that to kind of get back in phase again.
Right.
But I just I just wanted to kind of talk about there's a lot of folks out there that have like legit seasonal depression, whether it's because of the change the clocks change or whether it's because the seasons themselves are just not a very pleasant time for them for whatever reason. It's a real thing, and it people just have a hard time this time of year for different reasons,
Sure, they do.
and
It's
it just
January and February for me where I'm like, ugh,
yeah.
it's cold, everything's dead outside, and holidays are over.
But the good thing was is that I'd set my clock and forgot. So when my I woke up a little bit before my alarm went off Sunday morning to go to church. And I'm like, oh, I forgot. So then I'm like, so I was super early getting to church. So what I
Oh,
did was, what I did was, I got there like in the middle of the first service because
uh-huh.
we have two services, 9 o'clock and 10:30.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, I'll get there in the middle, but then I'll know at what point there I get there. So during the second service, when I get to that point, I can go because I've already seen that part. And
Then they're going
that's
to think they offended you.
no, because I pretty much do that all the time. But this was just more exaggerated because I got there
Yeah.
probably 20 minutes earlier than I would normally get there. But it was kind of cool. But
Now, I
yeah,
felt like my body was doing this weird anticipating thing like the week before. Like I'd
yeah,
wake up at 5 or 4 and I'm like, what the heck is this? It's
yeah.
like my body just anticipating this change. I don't know.
So for you folks that are out there and it just kind of feeling a little down because of the sun's going down quicker, we feel you. Um, it's not the most optimal thing. The good thing is that there's less of this time of year. There's 3 weeks less of this than there used to be. President Obama shortened it by 3 weeks, so we go
I
back.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, he switched it so we go back to daylight savings 3 weeks earlier than we know. It's a combination of 3 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks earlier and 1 week later at the end. So basically, it's 3 weeks less of the winter hours,
But
the winter
in some
sun.
states, I thought I read, don't. You
Arizona doesn't. There's two or three.
Hawaii,
Yeah,
maybe.
Arizona does not. Yeah, which is that's. I mean, there you live that far south, you get a lot of sun anyway. It's like Florida would not really ever have to do that because they get so much sun. They just have more sunlight than we do up here, just because of where they
I did
are.
buy a light last year. I bought one of those lights. I bought it off of Amazon, so I have no idea if it's effective or not. But those where I don't even know what they're called, but to try to help with the
Yeah.
lack of light.
Uh, huh.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into our topic tonight, which is talking about how um, love and respect and self care are all kind of tangled together, and we're not talking just about caring for and respecting others, although that's certainly part of the whole making us feel better and making others feel better. Just presenting a better you to the world. That certainly matters and it's certainly part of it, but more so how we just need to love and respect ourselves more and be more conscious and practice self love and self respect and work towards that more regularly to kind of improve our mental health just in general. And it's like with anything, it's a process. We have to do it consistently. But I know you've got an article that you have pulled up to kind of talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, and before I talk about, I love my articles. Before I talk about it, um, I just wanted to say, you and I do this gig weekly, right? And I honestly feel like because of that, it's become a habit, it's become a practice. I do feel like it's helping me personally um, be able to cope better with the tomatoes and potatoes that are thrown at you in life.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, um,
because we're talking about it, so it's more it's right there in our mind in the forefront. Yeah,
so because we're talking about it, makes us kind of practice it. I think I don't know what you think.
I totally agree. Yeah,
There I've noticed. I don't even know, Jay, how long we've done stuff like this. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you. I'm really bad keeper of time.
7 months. We're going on 7 months
On
now.
the podcast, seven
Yep.
months.
Hmm.
But I can tell you there are times where something has happened, and maybe it's just trivial, or maybe it's not, where I would have almost halfway lost my mind. And I've been so much better able to, take a breath, swallow, deal with it, sleep on it, and not be stressed and anxious about whatever the topic was, which then probably means that I will have been better for other people. Why would show up better for other people?
Oh, I lost my own video there for a second. I
Yeah,
was
I was like, is it me?
no. It just
So,
it was on my end. I don't know why I didn't touch anything.
so my I guess what I'm trying to say to everybody is, give it a chance. Give some regular practice a chance. Is it me, Jay?
No, no, you're fine. I'm reading. There's a message on my screen. I was just trying to. We're good.
Give some routine to self-care, and you may find that you show up better for yourself and for other people. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I know it. I feel like it's working for me because I don't know. You got to practice what you preach. This forces me to practice what I
yeah.
preach. I preach a lot, but this forces me to, you know, reflect, practice, know that not everything is devastating. Everything passes. Time is probably the best healer of a lot of things. Anyway, so let me go to my article, and it's titled. It's from something called a site called. It's a blog, um, from something called Psych Central, and and the article is titled "How to Regain Your Self-Respect and Why It Matters." And self-respect is knowing you are worthy and treating yourself accordingly. Respecting yourself is the first step toward understanding that you deserve love, consideration, and opportunities like everyone else. Our level of self respect acts almost like a blueprint to instruct others how to engage with us, which is interesting, right? Um, so, what is self respect? And you say this all the time, Jay. It's caring and loving yourself, and that doesn't mean you have to be vain and you're all about yourself or you're narcissistic. It really is, stepping
Self
outside
worth.
yourself, right?
Yeah,
And looking at yourself like you belong, you're worthy. And this article would say it's the result of staying true to your values and not being willing to compromise those values. And I'm a big person in believing in connecting with what your values are, um, and staying true to those. And we know, and this article will say this as well, that because of social media, mainly, I guess, we all are big comparison. We compare ourselves all the time now, especially maybe people who have some low self-esteem, low self-respect tend to engage more, socially compare more, which makes us feel worse about ourselves and not good enough and minimize, our important achievements. I mean, think about it, where people definitely want to put positive things, not negative things, and I get that on social, but you could you could be somebody that looks at somebody else's life and be like, wow, I don't have that. And
yeah,
that's just a dangerous territory to get into, but we do it, right? So there's some tips here about how to develop and show self-respect. So we could talk about them if that's good.
yep,
If you
yep,
want time. So the first one is what I've already talked about is looking at your values. And I don't know if people have taken the time to really to do that for yourself, and what a values alignment is, and you can Google it, and there's so many different like self tests you could do. Um, I think we all have values, but I don't think most people take the time to think about what they are and how they're ranked. Like if because why would you? I mean, I'm going to go do a values test
yeah.
today. But I've done it enough with some of the uh, self self care work that I'm
Hmm.
doing either here or in other parts of my job, that I've done some of these tests myself where, I know that family is a big value of mine personally, right? And I know that it's very high. Um, I know that loyalty is important to me. Being honest with me. If somebody lies to me, I struggle with that a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Like I want trustworthy people. So that's just something I think it's important to do. And when you're talking about values, like here's some questions. What do you value most in your life? Are there things you do daily that bring you closer to that, or keep you from it, or move you further from it? What are things you're absolutely not willing to compromise with? What do you want to be known as in your life to other people? What are some things you aspire to be that you haven't worked on yet? What's important to you in friendships? What's important to you in a romantic relationship? Um, yeah, so that's the first one. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that too, or if you've done any work about your values.
Well, here's and as you were talking, like the phrase self worth kind of was rattling around in my mind, and you and I have talked about before, getting to a point where we realize that we are worth being a part of this world. We are worth the happiness that we desire. We are worth our hopes and dreams. We are worthy of all those things. So my question is this, because I think, as we talked about a couple episodes ago about self reflection,
Yeah,
do we is it productive? And this is I'm asking this question because I'm trying to think of how this question, and it probably lands different with different people, but do we ask ourselves, am I worthy of the effort of self care? Do we ask ourselves that question, or because to me it's something because if we have just decided that our life is not what we would like for it to be, um, there is work to be done in whatever direction you want to go, in whatever part, whether it's your career, family, um, just to help improve yourself, whatever it is. There's work to be done. So, and getting to a point of a healthy sense of self, or as I just called it a minute ago, self worth. You can't just wake up one day and decide, okay, now I have it. It
yeah,
we would love for it to work that way.
yeah.
It just doesn't. So is it? I'm curious. Is it productive, or is it premature at the beginning, or early on in the process to ask yourself, am I worthy of what I of what I of the joy and happiness I want in my life, or is that something, or do we have to work towards it to just to realize we are? You know what I'm saying? Is it counterproductive early on? If that
I
makes
think
sense to
people
you.
do have to work toward it. I would say people have to work. How many? I don't know. I think like a lot of people, maybe females. I work in a very female-dominated field, right? You know, you see people really stressed out and anxious, and when you bring the self-care topic up, I feel like people do feel guilty in that they don't have time, and there's just so many things to do, or they have kids, or they're a single parent, or whatever. You know, I think it's I guess you could argue, are those excuses, or that they don't feel like they're worthy, or they feel guilty? I don't know. Those are definitely conversations to have
Yeah,
with yourself.
it's a chicken and egg thing,
Yeah,
because I think in hindsight most people can look back and say, oh, this was the period of time that was a shift in my life. I can look back on my life and know, generally, not the exact minute or day, but generally speaking, where the pendulum started to swing into a better direction. But we don't know that at the time. But where the chicken and egg thing comes in for me is, what within us gives us the the spirit, the willingness, the drive to decide, I need to do something about this and start moving in a bit and start the work. What and it's again that answer is probably different for different people.
Well, like
What
Marty, for example, my husband, Marty, he used to be a runner. And at some point in time, he realized the joints probably weren't what they used to be, right? So he started walking, and he started doing it every morning. He's still doing it, right? He's been doing it for a long time, and he has found with that shift that it kind of sets his day up. It's a habit, it's a routine that his brain can almost be a little clearer to take on the day. He self reflects and processes a lot during that walk. And then I heard him say one day he didn't have the walk because of whatever, we were doing something, and he's like, I could tell he really needed it, and that, but he felt
yeah
guilty. And he's like, is that bad to say that I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get that walk? I'm like, no, like if that's what sets you up for a good day, and that because you've practiced it, you've done it, then that's not bad at all. And like we've talked, there's a million things you got to try until you figure out what works for you.
yeah.
So then maybe if you try and then something works for you, then you realize you're deserving of it. I don't know if you
That's
see
what
it.
I say. Chicken and egg. You just it's like
Yeah.
which comes first. It's like you don't. That's the tough thing because there's not an answer. Um,
And I think I don't know if women do this more than men. I don't mean to be like that,
no, no,
but
no. No, there are definitely differences for sure.
sometimes I think too, like with well, I can speak for myself. I should just
Women are more
get
self-reflective than
myself
men
out
are
of
generally. Yeah,
trouble. Get myself out of trouble and say just me. But anyway, like I, for example, will think I'm a very creative person, so and I've done a lot of work on myself, so I do know what works for me. But um, I also get a lot of ideas of things I want to do. It is probably by comparison. I'm probably looking at some TikTok or whatever.
yeah,
So the last 3 years, for example, and I think these are all self care. I've made goals for myself, and I have a exhausting way of doing that. I mean, I every year I kind of set up yearly goals, and they're both personal and work related, um, and then I this planner that I have builds a lot of things in self reflection, habits, whatever. So it's a good system for me. But the last 3 years, I have made a creativity goal for myself because I know that's sort of a self care for me. And there's things I just do naturally because like cooking, I love to cook. It's a creative outlet for me, and that's a no brainer. Just do it. But one year, I said I'm gonna get into birding, and that's how I knew I finally reached middle age. I was gonna get into birding, so I bought bird feeders and what are they, binoculars.
yeah.
And so for 3 years, I've enjoyed, that as a self care thing. To pause, to be able to identify some birds. Gosh, I sound like I'm ancient, but that happened to me. And then another year, I was like, you know what? I want to learn how to do those royal icing cookies.
Mm,
So I made a goal for myself, and I made steps, and I did it. And then now my 2025 goal is I bought somebody's circuit machine. I think that's what it's called. It's like this thing. It's this thing that makes things. I can't even explain what it is, but that's my goal. That's my goal for 2025. So I'm gonna have a new thing, and like I could make. Don't laugh. I could make cards. I could make little placemats for Thanksgiving. I could probably do more than that, but I probably won't. So, but I guess what I'm saying with that is there's things we can identify, or I wonder if other people like me. There's things you could identify that might be good self care to like take you out of the busy, congested, negative world. But how do you get to it? How do you take the time? So I guess what I'm saying in a long about way is for me, I identify something. And
yeah.
then I was like, what steps do I need to do to get to it? And maybe it takes me 6 months, maybe it takes a year, but I feel accomplished and I feel better, which maybe makes me a better person if I can not
Well,
be.
it's a way of keeping holding yourself accountable. If it, you know what I mean?
That
Yeah,
is true. and also if you plan stuff out, then you're not just overwhelmed in your head. Yeah, I know there's things I could do to feel better about myself or to have better self-care, but I don't know how to grab it. I don't know how to get it started.
Yeah.
Sounds good, but I don't have time. But I think it comes down to really investing in yourself, like caring about yourself enough to know you need to invest time. And some of it may be a little deeper work where you go and plan something out, but you
Yeah.
deserve it, you know?
I, as you and I talked about a little bit before we came on to record, I feel like self love and gratitude are kind of partners,
Hmm.
um, because gratitude is or identifying those things and remembering those things about not just about us, but those things in our life that we are grateful and thankful for. So I feel like, although I'm not a big person for journaling, the whole practicing self love can go hand in hand with a gratitude journal. In other words, as you're listing things each day that you're grateful for, list one thing that you love about yourself at the same time. You know, it could be, it doesn't have to, it could be, I've got good handwriting, or it could be, um, I love my hair, or not that I would ever put that on a,
You did.
but
You
but you know what I'm saying. You could, if you're a journaling person, I think journaling can have a lot of value in kind of, again, kind of keeping a record of your progress, but also keeping yourself accountable to yourself. In other words, go back 6 months ago and
reflect.
remind yourself of the things you love about yourself, and remind yourself of the things you're grateful for those days, even though maybe you had a bad day at work that day. So part of you thinks, oh, I had a lousy day because work sucked today, but your
But
journal says, I love A, B, and C about me, and I'm grateful for A, B, and C about my life. So
grateful is it's a practice. Oh
yeah,
my gosh. I think it's like such important medicine, gratitude. And I agree with you. Journaling isn't for everybody. And I go in phases of it. If I'm in a really funk, journaling can help me bring out of it. But I don't need journaling all the time because then it becomes another task that I don't feel like doing. But um, but the gratitude thing is like that's a habit changer. I feel like, and my one of my favorite things is that negativity bias that we're, you know, like Velcro to negativity and Teflon meaning positive things can kind of
slide
slide
off.
off
Yeah,
and the negative sticks. So we've got to flip that around. So if I think it's a good practice if you're like, one example sticks in my mind of you when you go on your beach trip, and I remember you saying, "Of course, we want to go to the beach and have sunny weather, right? We want it to be 75 and sunny
yeah,
every time we go to the beach." Well, it's impossible for a multitude of reasons, right? But you said, I remember one time you saying you've looked at it differently. So if it rains, then there's other things you do. Like you did
yep,
the gratitude there. You didn't like, oh, why me? I'm a victim. I spent all this money. Now what am I going to do?
yeah.
And I got cheated. You don't look at it that way. You
No,
flip the switch and look at it from a gratitude perspective. And I think that if we as people just get much better at flipping that switch, of and dealing with the struggle, whatever it is, making the struggle work for us. So your struggle in that scenario is the rain.
yeah,
So how can that work for you? Well, maybe you visited the shipwreck museum that has articles from the Titanic. That's something I did recently.
yeah,
And I was like, I am so glad I did this. If it was sunny out, I wouldn't have gone.
yeah.
And now I think I'm going to go a lot more. So there's always another side of the coin, and it makes us feel better if we flip that coin.
Yeah, and I think, Kathy, we tend to make things either or, one or the other.
Yes.
We either today's a good day or today's a bad day. You can
Yeah.
have both happen on the same day. You can
In
have,
the same half hour.
yeah, you can have a bad thing happen to you. You can have a bad day at work, just using that as an example. You can have a
Exactly.
bad day at work and then also still have these things in your life that you're grateful for at the same exact time. And probably
Yeah.
most days that's the case. Most days are never going to be one or the other. But
No.
we tend to compartmentalize them as in, and we also tend to say, okay, this is a bad period of life, whether it's a month or a year, whatever. Therefore, my life is ruined.
Right.
It's not. And I've seen this saying online a lot. A bad day does not make a bad life, or a bad year does not make a bad life. It's, you know, you can have a shitty day at work and have lousy customers. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it happens to me. As much as I enjoy my job most days, there are days when I have crappy customers, and
I
I
don't
don't.
feel like peopling, right?
But
Some days
but yet
oh, fuck.
but yet in the same day, I'm at the gym and I'm doing self care and I'm reflecting on where I've come versus where I was, and you can do both. And most days are probably going to have both. And there's got to be. And to me, I've kind of learned as I've gotten older. And again, it's event specific. There are some events that are a 2 on the bad scale and some that are a 9 on the bad scale. But the the bad moments, days, or whatever, kind of really helps after the moment leaves. When you have that initial, oh, this moment sucks. Once that moment leaves, after that, it always reminds me of how good I have it generally. So it kind of, it's like, oh, this is nothing in the scope of what I have gone through. It can always get worse and it can always get better. It just, things can be both in the same day, or like you said, in the same
Yeah.
hour. You can have
Yeah.
an hour where you have great news and lousy news in the same hour. That's just
Yeah.
life. And I used to think, Kathy, I used to have this really, I don't know if it was being naive or having rose-colored glasses, whatever you want to call it, but I always used to think, okay, I think generally that most of us end up neutral in the negative versus positive. In other words, if we have 10 bad things, we'll have 10 good things. We're all, you may have go on a bad losing streak with bad stuff, but eventually you're going to go. I used to think that it all balances out, and it might, but may not. It may tip one way or the other. It's never going to tip all the way one way or all the way. Never. It's going to be
We never
somewhere in
learn it,
between.
right? We
Yeah,
never learn a thing. We never grow.
it's going to be somewhere in the middle, and that's the scale. Not. I always think of the scales of justice. How they're, it's always going to be kind of teetering one. I always, I say to myself sometimes, I'm like, look, I don't need to have anything great happen, but I don't want anything real. I would just be happy with uneventful, just like Richie Cunningham, humdrum.
Mm, yeah.
This just have the scales be perfectly even all the time. But again, number one, it would just be boring. But number two, you can't grow if
Right.
you don't you don't dig into yourself to find that the strength and the fortitude and the tools to deal with life. We learn so much more from the struggles than we do from the victories. We just do. We've talked about that before.
Well, on a day like today, election day is what brings out the worst in people. So, you have to take
Yeah,
days like today and figure out how to, I know it's easy to be very disappointed in mankind right now when people are so mean and divided. So you just gotta figure it out.
yeah. I just, you and I have talked about that before. We try to stay away from the specifics of politics.
Yeah. But
Um,
people have been
yeah.
naughty. People have not been nice. They're going to be on
I
Santa's
just
naughty list.
the whole. Yeah, I don't want to get started because it was funny. I got talking to a customer at work
Yeah.
yesterday because he
No,
said,
we're anti politics on the podcast.
yeah, he said, who you vote for? And I said,
None of your
I'm not.
business.
I said, I'm not. Well, I said, I told him like I'm not. He's like, what? I'm like, nope. I'm like, I'm just not. I'm not settling. I'm not gonna. I'm just not. Nope. I said the system's it's just messed up. It just is.
I just wish
It-
people would be nicer. But anyway,
yeah, and
um,
him and I didn't agree, but we had a
yeah,
cordial, respectful, and it was great. We disagreed on some things. We agreed on some things. I actually, politics is not one of my favorite things to talk about because
yeah,
I'm just so frustrated with how the whole machine it runs. It's broken. But anyway, but him and I sat there for probably 20 minutes and we talked. Nobody yelled and screamed. Nobody. It was just
But
and he
people,
and you know what? And we disagreed on some things. We agreed on some things. And when he left, he said, "Hey Jay, I really appreciate you talking with me about that stuff."
nice.
And even though we didn't agree, that's I said I
That's the way.
appreciate it too. I said that's what the United States should be. Two people who may not agree, but they talked about it in a nice, respectful way, had a nice conversation, and
Found
one of
some.
us or one of us or both of us may have learned something or may have
Yeah.
grown. Who knows? So that's the way it should be. It's whatever.
Let's get back to this little article. We've really talked about. Let me summarize the article again. There was 5 areas about how to develop and show self-respect. I think we've talked about most of them. We talked about revisiting values and what's important to you. It's really important to do a value assessment. What's important to you and what's holding you back from those things. Or another thing we talked about was focus on activities you enjoy. I think we did talk about that, right? Do
We've
you
only
want to?
talked about that 100 episodes. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's important to know what you enjoy. Because I think you even helped me think about it in a different way one time, Jay, on one of our podcasts where I don't know, I said something like sometimes I ask people, what do you do for self care, and what are the self care uh, what do you do for self-care, I guess?
yeah,
And the person said, I don't know. And that you said to me, maybe we better to ask people, what do you enjoy? And I thought,
yes,
wow, that there you go. That is a better way to do that.
yep,
So this is the same thing. What do you enjoy? What do you want to do? Can you start a new hobby? Do you want to journal? We've talked about that. Another one was practicing self-care. We've talked about that. So the two things we didn't talk about that's in this article, one is take inventory of your relationships. So, are there people that you surround yourself with that bring you up? Are there people that bring you down? How are you being treated by other people? And sometimes we need to set some good boundaries around
yep,
that. And I think that's a hard one. Like, what are we willing to tolerate? You
yeah.
know,
That goes back to what our values are, what we feel our self worth is. Yeah,
like I can tell now if there are people that I need to unpeople from for a little bit, or I can take in segments. And sometimes it can be your own family,
yeah,
where if somebody's draining your tank, maybe you need to put some boundaries
yeah,
about what that looks like.
yeah,
You don't have to just be around
yeah.
that.
It's we always have to be mindful and have the priority of our own wellness at all times, whether we're alone doing our own self care things or whether we're a spouse or a parent or a teacher or a coworker or whatever it is. Um, but I find it interesting also, Kathy, and here's something that I've learned since I've kind of, um, as we've talked about before, I've kind of flipped the switch and have become more, because I've become more, um, have created a stronger sense of self. I feel much more comfortable in social settings
Yeah,
and all that
nice.
kind of thing. And we've talked about that. And the whole talking
Mhm.
to people in the elevator on vacation or talking to strangers at the gym or wherever it is. I think there is value and there is some self care in being pleasant and being respectful outwardly to others. It could be just a matter of holding the door for someone going
Yes,
into a store, or
I hope
just
you
saying,
have a great day.
yeah, just saying hello to someone, or a smile, or there, and that was something that
You
I,
look amazing today.
yeah, I completely avoided any kind of interactions with people for the longest time. But
That's a
I,
great social experiment.
it helps, and I'm telling you, as I've evolved, and don't get me wrong, I'm never going to be a social butterfly, as I've said before, but I have found myself more often, from time to time, saying hello to a stranger or speaking to a stranger, just, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like bombard them with compliments, but just a matter of initiating a conversation. Let someone know that, hey, they're important enough for someone to want to speak to them in any pleasant way at all. And I have found myself walking away from those conversations feeling good myself, feeling uplifted. So you know, and I think Krista Luna, when we had her on, she was talking about, it's just, telling everyone hello or holding the door, and there is, it reflects back on us because, like for me, and part of it, sure, part of it is that that whole experience is new to me, so I'm kind of taking all the newness of how pleasant that can be. So I'm
Yeah.
learning and growing, and that's a good thing for me specifically because of my situation. But I can imagine just most people as they present a pleasant and positive image, even if you're faking it to other people, how because probably that person's going to feel that vibe and reciprocate in some way. So now it's a mutual thing, and nothing but good can come from that. So it's not just as important as it is to love ourselves and to respect ourselves, but to be caring and pleasant and respectful to others, and taking 30 seconds and say hello, or holding the door or whatever it could,
And you're never going to fail with that. If you look at somebody, if you hold the door for somebody, or like I just went to the car place. What do you call it? Where where
car
you get
wash.
no, where you get your car serviced, like the
Oh
mechanic,
yeah, yeah,
whatever. And I spent a lot of money there on a car, and I could be like and mad and walk out, but I treated them like they just gave me something. And I was like, I hope you guys have a really great rest of your day, and
yeah.
they just seemed shocked, and why not say that?
Now think about it this way. Think about how we feel when someone, whether it's in a restaurant or in a department store,
Mhm.
when someone provides us good service, how good that makes us feel.
Yeah.
Now, expand that to just general interpersonal situations. You're providing them good personal service. That sounds weird. It sounds kind of strange to say it that way,
Yeah.
but you're not providing them a service as a customer, but you're providing them a positive experience, like someone in a store or a restaurant, a waitress gives you a positive experience. You leave that experience better for having had it. So why not provide that to others just on a
But
day to day
it's
basis?
also science. We have mirror neurons. If I'm going to smile at you, it's going to affect you and
Yeah,
me. If I come in here frowning and barking, it's going to affect you and me.
yeah.
It,
It
it's
reflects
a
back
real,
on. Yeah,
it's a real thing. There's one other thing on this article that I wanted to say, and
yep,
I think this is a really good one. Identify and nurture what your needs are, right? So the self-respect, self-love, caring for yourself is about um, this question. Like if you're having a bad day, Jay, and I was a good friend, maybe something I could say to you is, Jay, what do you need?
yep,
Right? But if we practice doing that to ourselves, like
yep.
if I'm
What do I
having a
need? Yep,
crap day right now, okay, what do I need? What do I need right now to feel better? And there's all kinds of ways to do that. There's that. I think I've talked about it before. That HALT method. What am I right now? Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Those are some things to pause and think about. But what do you need? Identify it and try to work toward it.
yeah.
Like treat yourself that good that that's like if you are hanging out with a friend, you were asking them what do they need to feel better right at that moment, or what do you need right now? Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Because you might be able to identify it and then flip the narrative a little bit right then.
As we get more consistent and we create a track record of self care, what starts to happen is we start to figure out who we are. We
Yeah.
kind of try different things. We know the things that may work better than others. So as we're learning ourselves, we're um, we're now we know, okay. I'm going through a thing, and there have been times, Kathy. Like I said, I have my little going to work and doing tea when I first get to work, but there have been a handful of times where I'll also do one in the afternoon. Sometimes it's because I feel a little worn down. And I just want that little jolt of
Shoot, Jay, I'm a two
cat.
a dare.
But there's also sometimes where I'm thinking, I just want to feel good for a few minutes, so I'm going to just make it half a cup. You know what I mean? I
It's just
have
like
learned.
everybody
I've
fun.
learned what works. I have.
Mm,
If you're, and we've talked about this before too. You have to become familiar with who you are,
mm.
and point yourself in the direction that you know works. And so, like you said, ask yourself,
I need
what
it.
do I need? What can help me? What can help me right now?
And
And
that tea is like chicken soup. It's like if you're sick, you eat chicken soup. That tea is the same thing. Like it can lift your mood a minute.
I did it yesterday. I'm like, I'm not,
Mm.
and I didn't. I wasn't like I didn't do it because I was tired. I'm just like, and I wasn't really going through it. I'm just like, you
I
know,
need it. I need it.
I'm like, oh, it would be really nice to have another half a cup of tea right
Yeah.
now. But you figure that out as you go, and if you're consistent and you're practicing self love and self care, you start knowing the signs, and more importantly, you know what direction to go to. You know the tool and toolbox, the specific tool to pick up and be like, okay, let me have that cup of hot tea, or let me go write my journal, or let me go
You
get
know
a
what I
massage.
did, Jay? I went to the tea store in Annapolis on Friday, and that's a very dangerous place for me. I sniffed so many jars of tea, and I loaded up. I'm like, wow, somebody's gonna think I got a real issue.
They probably see you coming. There's that woman
There's
again.
that tea girl. We're gonna get her. We're like,
There's there's a quota for the week right there.
we can sell her anything. That one lowers blood pressure. That one is for that. I'll buy it. I'll take it. Anyway, yeah, I did get some new. I got some because I told you I'm getting into the blue tea
Yeah.
because it's visually like, oh, it's blue, and I turned it purple the other day. I was like, nice purple tea. Anyway, whatever. I'm weird.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little about what we've been watching lately. And I know you finally. I had watched a movie last week called Here with Tom Hanks, and then you were able to also watch it. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts were.
So I should have. So yeah, I was sold. I'm always trying to keep up with Jay, which is a very exhausting thing to do. I'll never be as good as Jay when it comes to movie streaming and all that. But I try, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to movies and see this movie that you saw. I texted you, what's the dealio, whatever, and I guess I didn't do my research well enough. So I was into the movie. I guess it's an original, right? It's
Yes.
not, it's not a sequel. It's not whatever. And I'm like, I bought into the Forrest Gump and Jenny thing because those are the main actors, Forrest and Jenny, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, heck yeah, I love that duo. I'm in. I'm on it. And what I wasn't prepared for is the emotions that I personally went through in that movie. And which is why movies are amazing, right? Because it takes us to all kinds of different places. And you and I have talked about the movies that take you through laughing and, dark emotions or whatever. That movie did the whole gamut for me. And Marty and I were there with my parents, and I was probably the only one crying. It brought tears came out, and I had to have a moment. And I left at the end of the movie. I'm like, don't anybody talk to me. And I went into Ulta and bought some serums for my face. That's what I needed. What did you need in that moment? I need to go buy something for my daggone face and fix my face. That's what I did. But yeah, it was.
So
Yeah,
it's a very interesting movie because it's presented completely different than any movie I can remember.
yeah,
The whole movie is literally it's almost like it. You know what it kind of reminded me of a little bit, and how it was visually shown. Um, All in the Family, how the camera
right.
was in one spot. The whole like the camera literally was in
Yeah,
this one room the
focused in
entire time.
the living
And
room.
what it did was it was in this house, and they showed the different families that lived in this house. They even showed as if the house wasn't there back in prehistoric times, but the
Yeah,
camera was still there in the same exact spot.
yeah,
The camera never left this one spot in this one room the entire time. And they mainly followed this family that's got Robin Wright and Tom Hanks, who were a married couple. And
Jenny and Forrest.
yeah, and I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But the whole Forrest Gump crew, the director and those two were all part of this. They're
Oh wow,
all Yeah, Robert Zemeckis was the director. He directed this. Um,
But it's the relationship thing, I think, that
yes,
was heavy in that movie. And I guess, I mean, the way I took it was, yes, this is one room, and a room is a room is a room, right? Or a piece of land,
that's why it's called Here. The movie's called Here because it was
right?
literally all the things that happened
All thing
here.
that happened here, and I guess if the walls could talk, right? But the relationships really span through periods
Generations.
and
Yeah.
lifespan and generations. And then I'm a social worker, for God's sake. So I went there. I felt all the emotions, of um, grandparents and children and people passing away and chronic illness. And I'm like, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
I could relate to a lot of things in there. And man, it got me. It got me. Maybe
It covered so many of the bases that a family would go through:
yes.
grandparents, parents, children, and like the whole, parents, bickering with their teenage kids, and they're they want their kid to do this, but he wants to do this, and I want to be an artist, but no, you have to provide for your family, and they get pregnant early, and you
Or even
know,
when he was yelling at the dad, he's yelling at the dad because the dad's older and he can't hear. And then it's almost like you're yelling because, and I laugh because I'm thinking, how many family members does that happen? I'm like, don't
yeah.
yell at me. And you can't hear me.
And then what was really cool at the very end, they spin the camera around,
Yeah.
and you can finally see what the rest of the house looks like. And I'm thinking, what?
I didn't, yeah, it's not what I envisioned, right?
I'm like, wait a minute. They added this. They called it an add-on table because apparently they had a dining room table in the other room.
Oh, yeah,
Who
yeah,
who,
yeah.
who was sitting in the other room if all these people were there?
Yeah.
But
The spillover table, right?
it was just shot way different than any other movie I've ever seen. At first I was when it started out and they were showing prehistoric times, and then like Ben Franklin was
Yeah,
part of it. I'm like, what the hell is this about? I don't
right.
see Tom Hanks anywhere. But then finally, it
I
kind of
know
got.
Marty said, did we go to the right movie? And I was like, I don't know. Yes.
But everything that happened was here in this very spot. Whether it was prehistoric times, colonial times, you know, there was a different family before Tom Hanks' family bought the. It was just, yeah. And
Marty's
they bought the house. What they bought the house for $4,500, or
I don't remember.
it was some crazy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's different. It's different, but
but
yeah.
interesting. They were as Tom Hanks and Robin Wright were doing their press tour. Of course, they asked him about, hey, what was it like to work together on Forrest Gump? And Robin Wright says, I didn't know Tom Hanks. I didn't get to know Tom Hanks because what was happening was
Mm.
in between scenes he would go out and run because he needed to be able to run, be in shape to run for the
Oh,
movie.
like Run Forest Run.
Yeah, so like
Forest
they didn't hang out in between scenes or like off time, so they didn't get to know each other. She said they got to know each other more on this set by far more than they did back then because he was always his spare time. He was just go run, but not just because he had to be able to run, but he had to like stay in that kind of shape as a runner for the role. So they didn't get to know each other. So she was talking about that. So that was really
I
really
saw
cool.
Tom Hanks had an interview on the Today Show, and I just I don't know if I'd forgotten or never really thought about it. All the historical characters he has voiced or
Yep,
played, you know,
yep,
all Houston. We have a problem. He's
yep.
Woody and in Toy Story. There's so many
He
characters he
played
is.
the guy in Philadelphia with him and
Yeah,
Denzel Washington. Yep,
I mean it's like wow, he really is legend.
he played the Castaway guy in Castaway
Yeah,
that was
Wilson
stranded. Yep,
or not? He wasn't Wilson. He talked a little.
he was in Big.
Yes.
He was in Bosom Buddies. That's when we first saw him on a TV show.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah.
Who's got mail? Oh yeah,
He's got, he's just,
his resume's big time.
his resume is big time. Seems like a pretty humble guy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and he's one of those guys that you don't really ever hear anybody have anything bad to say about him either. Like nobody says, "Oh, I didn't like working with him." Nope, ever. But
I still have an issue with Woody in the last Toy Story, and I need that corrected. So I'm hoping that the next Toy Story will correct it because I don't like how that one ended. That's my only complaint. It's not his fault though.
So I actually started all my normal streaming things are over. The seasons are finished. So
Oh,
I was like, I've been searching high and low for stuff on streaming, and I found two things. And one of them was not even streaming; it was on regular TV. It's called The Rookie. It's
mm,
on Lifetime, I think it is. It's a cop show, but I kind of accidentally ran into it one day, so I'm like, well, let me give this a try. I really like that. And
mm.
this other one that's on Netflix is called The Diplomat with Kerry Russell. Kathy, I was up to 1 o'clock last night
Yeah,
watching that one.
really.
I watched the first three episodes back to back to back last night,
Is it new?
and this is season two, so apparently it must have been
Wow.
on prior.
Mm.
Um,
You like it, huh?
I love it. It's so
And that's a
stinking good.
Netflix one or no? You said,
Netflix. It's called The Diplomat with Kerry Russell. You'll recognize some other.
mm.
Oh, the president of the United States is actually played by. You remember Lenny and Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley?
Of course I do.
The blonde-haired one, whatever one he was, Lenny. He plays the president of the United States in this show.
Really?
It's yep. Michael something or other is his name, but you'll
Does he still
recognize.
have the Lenny voice?
No, he speaks like the president would speak. He's very diplomatic and very
I won't
proper.
even know him. I won't
But
even know if that is Lenny voice.
it's very like
Lenny and Squiggy. You're gonna have me giggling over that all
it's
night.
kind of it almost visually looks like a spy show, but it's not really about spies per se. It's about she plays an ambassador and something happens and they call her to help her and her husband used to be an ambassador and he just there's that whole dynamic. It's so good. Like
I am so streaming backed up. It's not even funny, and I don't even know when it's going to correct himself. So haven't watched Outer Banks.
I've stopped watching Outer Banks. I don't like it. It's not very good.
Don't tell me.
It doesn't interest
I
me.
don't want to hear.
So I've watched all kind of stuff.
I'm backed up, man. I don't know when I'm ever gonna be able to stream again.
I do know that next week a show on Apple TV Plus that I watched a while back that I've been waiting forever for it to come back is called The Silo. It's coming back next week, season two. So I'm really looking forward to that. I actually
There's,
saw the trailer for that.
hmm,
And of course, I watched The Voice last night. So good.
yeah,
Um,
you've definitely you're egging me on to stay attached to that show because I always watch the beginning. What do you call that? The blind auditions or whatever.
Blind auditions.
And
Yep.
I always drop off, and I don't know why. So you're helping me with
Now
the
it's on
reminder.
tonight. It's on tonight again. Remember, it's on
Yeah,
Tuesday nights too. So
I will watch it. I will watch. You're helping me.
yeah, the battles is a
Don't
really
give
good
up.
one. So yeah,
But these kids are good, you know.
they're
And then
so good.
was it? I know I probably asked you this before. Morgan Wallen was on The Voice, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
do you remember what happened? I know he didn't win, but
He didn't win. I don't remember.
yeah,
And I had forgotten that he was on there, so he must not have gotten
too
like
far.
like crazy far.
I'm a big Wallen fan, so I need to go back and watch what he did on that because I just think he's amazing.
The Voice has not had as many. Um, I know
Like,
Danielle Bradbury is pretty popular. Cassidy Pope, they were both on Blake's team. Um, they haven't had as many like people that have become super famous and super successful like American Idol has.
but really, with Idol, who did we have? We had Carrie Underwood,
Kelly
um,
Clarkson,
Kelly, Jennifer.
Ruben Studdard, Jennifer Hudson, Daughtry,
Oh, Dodge.
um,
That's
um,
probably.
Chris. What's his name? He had a couple hits. I can't remember. Um,
But I mean, some major
oh
stars.
yeah, like Kelly
The one,
Clarkson and Carrie Underwood are among the biggest that there are.
well, and then Jennifer Hudson is.
Clay Aiken has done real well on Broadway. Adam Lambert's done real well on
Oh, Adam
Broadway.
Lambert. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
So we've
really
had
had. But here's what I don't understand: why that show over The Voice? Because The Voice has good people too. It's just weird how some of the idols, unless
because
the promoters afterwards.
here's what happens as part of winning American Idol, you get a contract with a recording company automatically as part of winning. You don't necessarily get that with The Voice.
Okay.
You may. Oh, now Lauren Elena has been pretty big. She was on Blake's team.
Oh, she was
Uh,
a voice. She was the voice.
she
Okay.
was the voice. Yeah. But there just haven't been any like
Hmm.
knockout stars on. And now, granted, Idol's been around longer. It was kind of the first one of all of those kind of shows. Um,
People are so talented, though. Good grief.
there have actually been like X Factor. One Direction came from
Yeah.
X Factor. Fifth Harmony, and both of those groups did not go there as groups. They went there as individual singers trying out. Simon Cowell and Nicole Scherzinger saw the five guys from One Direction separately and said, between the two of them, they said, "You guys need to sing together as a group." And once they became popular that way, Simon took Fifth Harmony and said, we need to make the girl version of One Direction." And they, of
Oh,
course, then Camila Cabello, she's split off and did her own thing. And of course, Harry Styles and Niall
yeah.
had been really popular on their own from One Direction. Oh, I missed it. There was a show on last night on ABC about the tragic life of Liam Payne, and I completely
Oh,
forgot
really?
because I started watching The Diplomat, so I missed out on. Maybe it'll be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
you can see it
yeah, because it was
again.
on ABC. It was from 10 to 11. It
Most of
was
those, don't you think you can find them even if you find them on YouTube or something?
Yeah, because all like ABC is Disney, NBC is
Yeah.
Peacock, CBS is Paramount.
Oh, look
They're
at
all
you.
yeah, because
You know all
they're the same company. It's
yeah, yeah.
um, yeah. So yeah, if you're looking for something to watch, if you're listening, The Diplomat's really good. And on regular TV, try The Rookie. I like Nathan Fillion. He played Castle, the show
Mm.
Castle. Who he was a writer, but he partnered with a detective. He's actually a cop on
Not
this one.
not related to us.
No, Castle as in a medieval castle, spelled like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
spelled differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, all right, guys. We appreciate you joining us. Check us out next time, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.